We Gotta Believe, episode 127, presented by Coors Light, the beer that's made to chill. Hot stove's heating up. You're going to need a Coors Light to chill out because we have a GM I don't know a fucking thing about other than he was presided over a team that wasted Mike Trout's prime. And then the guy who we penciled in as our number 2, 3-ish guy coming off of Tommy John just left to said team. So go reach into the fridge, take the Coors Light with the bluest mountains you can find, and guzzle it down right now because everyone, I think we're going to need to chill out because I haven't even looked at Mets Twitter, but I guarantee it is a calamity. It's the pizza box as you walk in, fire everywhere, and it's absolute chaos. So when you need a beer that is meant to chill you out, go to Coors Light and get your Coors Light from Drizzly or Instacart. We love it. CoorsLight.com/believe. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. How are we feeling, Kev? Kev's driving right now, by the way. So.
Do you want to start with Syndergaard or start with, what's his name? Epler? I don't even fucking know.
I think we got to start with Syndergaard because that's right. Fresh and it's bigger. Feels bigger.
Listen, Syndergaard, from my experience with him, I never said anything back in the day because, I don't know, you're not supposed to say anything. But now that he's gone, I don't give a fuck. That dude hated the Mets, through and through. And it was the Wilpon Mets. But anytime I talk to him, and granted it's been a few years because we had a falling out once Alex Cooper came to Barstool. But, I mean, everything, whenever we talked, was talking about the Wilpon Mets and how much of a garbage organization they were. The impression I got was that he never liked it here. And I never blamed him. Down to little things. I remember he used to tell me, the food that was available to the players was chicken fingers and fries and shit like that he was just what the fuck is this organization? I'm trying to be a major major league ball player. Everything I ever heard from him about the Mets was not good. I feel like he kind of used to publicly take little shots here and there, and I always got the impression he was way more of a Matt Harvey than he was a Jacob deGrom. Mm-hmm. And I never really thought he wanted to be here long term. I thought that Cohen might make the difference. If the Wilpons were still here, I would have told you 100% chance he's gone as soon as he was up. I thought maybe he would stick around for the Cohen turnaround. But I mean, I guess not, right?
He still might.
I know it's a couple extra million, and people are why not shell out $2 or $3 more million? But also the fact that he would leave for $2 million is he didn't want to be here. You know what I mean? So that goes both ways. I
just said, how are you going to uproot? You're going to uproot your entire life for an extra $3 million for one season to then turn around and come back to New York? I mean, it's possible, but at the same time, it's what the fuck are you thinking? Me and Clem think it might have something to do with the collective bargaining agreement where he's just trying to get his money up front. But give me a break. At least go back to Cohen and be you want to match it? You want to double it? Let's work something out.
That's what I mean. Those are the actions of a guy who wants to leave. Those are the actions of a dude who's I don't want to be here or in this city or with this team or has some other motives, like you said, with the future. To me, that was a guy who made his mind up, and that sucks. Also, at the same time, how many times have we wanted and expected Thor, and we just never got it again? So we haven't penciled in as our 2 and 3, but has that ever really been realistic? He had one little short spurt where he showed that side of him. Otherwise, it sucks.
The timing is so fucking terrible. We've been waiting all year for a new GM, and now they're about to announce it, and then it's just it's a negative for sure. The staff got worse. It's going to be something that we have to fill. But Stroman just congratulated on him leaving town.
Yeah,
so he's going to be gone too.
Listen, I really think once this thing with the GM started going down, I completely shifted my mindset to this is now a long-term thing, and I think that we all need to strap in for that. I think that 3 to 5 is long gone if we don't have a real GM and players are going to be leaving. And I think, the reality of the situation is, and we probably should have thought this. I really wish he never said that 3 to 5 years shit, because if you told me from the jump we're going to have to turn around the New York Mets, one of like the biggest laughing stocks in all of sports. I would have told you that's going to take a long fucking time. Like those reports about how we used to have 6 analytics members and now we're upping that to like 18 and 24. Like there are things where you have to like overhaul the whole organization. And I think that's going to take a long ass time. I think we got our hopes up that it was going to be quick. But now between this weird, what I believe to be a blackball GM situation and, you know, a couple guys here and there decide to bounce, now all of a sudden we're talking about like a full-blown organizational rebuild instead of a retool.
Yeah. And like just going back to Noah, because I mean, we've talked about it so much on this show. I feel like we always will be like, Loki, Thor, which one is he? He's pitched 2 innings in the last 2 seasons, right? He pitched 2 innings last year. He didn't pitch in the Corona season. That's when remember he had the Tommy John surgery when like games were canceled. And we're like, how the fuck this whole entire saga played out in like peak Noah fashion where there was always just something a little off. His last full season, he had a 4.28 ERA, obviously not great. But before that, I mean, we always talk about Noah. His ERA, 3.24, 2.6, 2.97, 3.03. Before that, 4.28. The fucking talent's there. I just, again, like, I think you said it perfect, Kev, though. Like, I just don't understand why he'd want to leave unless he's just like, man, fuck this place. And hey, like, whether he likes Cohen, doesn't like Cohen, or is just like, sometimes you just need a reboot. You know what I mean? I went freshman year, I went to Seton Hall. I hated it. I had a couple friends, though, who I loved. But I was just like, I'm fucking done with this place. I just have to, you know, start fresh. And I transferred. And maybe Noah was like that for like, whatever it is, like 6 seasons. He's like, there's just enough Mickey Mouse shit in this franchise. I just want to start anew. And I mean, after last season, you can't even blame him, right? Because with the same shit, you have a creepy GM. You have a fucking dude passing up behind the wheel in White Plains. You have all the nonsense we've talked about. The Angels is an interesting, like, they're like Mets West, it feels like sometimes, where they just.
Dude, that to me, that says it all to me. Like, this was not like I'm going to go to a contender or anything. That's like, I'm going west, going to LA where nobody gives a fuck. Like, I don't know. To me, this is a Noah move, not like a Mets. Like, I think the Mets probably would have taken him if he wanted to be. Like, I think this is a decision he made that really doesn't have to do with like the Mets as much as the future Mets as much as it does with the past Mets.
You knew that if he was going to leave, it was going to be another big market because he can't stand to not be in the spotlight. Like now he's going to be in movies in Hollywood and whatever else fuck he's going to be doing. But at the same time, it's like, did you think that they saw this coming, or were we so busy trying to find a goddamn GM that he's just walking out the back door like, oh, well, I'm going to go see what I can get elsewhere, and nobody's paying attention to him? You got to like stroke the ego of these bigger guys, and clearly nobody was doing that.
No, he's not a bigger guy. He hasn't been for so fucking long.
But how do you replace him? Like we were already penciling him in as like he needs to come back because like fucking Rich Hill and Cookie Carrasco, who's communion wafer Carrasco, like all these guys who we were like, oh, we can maybe rely on them. Like now there's already calls for Scherzer. Scherzer's 38 years old. That's a huge difference. Yeah, he's still at the top of his game, but like there's not a ton of upside there. You're going to fill him in for like a year or two, and he wants like 5 years.
I'm putting the phone down because there's a cop behind me. But that's why it makes it feel to me like it was like they probably did know on some level. This is weird. Like this, that he wanted to leave because I think like the Mets would have, you know, made moves or made a bigger offer or whatever. But maybe there were talks of like, I'm getting out of here. I just really, it's hard to convey because it was never public, but like the amount of conversations we had in the past about his majority of the time with the Mets was always like, fuck this place. Like if you work somewhere for, 6 years, is it, you said? And, 5 of them were with like a shitty boss and a shitty, infrastructure around you. And then it's like, hey, we got a new guy in, we're going to turn it around. And you're like, okay, yeah, but you're not really going to turn it around until year like 8 or 9. Like, it's not for me, man. I think that like on a real life level, I think he was just like, I don't want to be like in these hallways, in this locker room, on this field, around these people. Like it was not anything from the Noah that I knew that like he ever really enjoyed it. But I gotta like reiterate that I haven't spoken to him recently, so like maybe I can't put words in his mouth or anything. But I'm just saying personally, I was not surprised like at all. And the fact that he was even over a couple million, like again, not surprised. I thought I thought he was going to be like, yeah, I'm out. I thought that there was a chance coming off of the like he would just do the qualifying offer and try to get a big contract, stay 1 year more in New York, because like you said, you're going to uproot your life for just 1 year. But I guess if that's your plan and you have some sort of CBA idea, that kind of makes sense, right? Like, let me go. It's like studying abroad. It's like, I'm going to go to LA. It's going to be nice. Like, I'll pitch my balls off in front of a franchise, in front of a fan base that like doesn't really care. Nice weather. I'll do my thing and then get big money. You know, if you're going to do a 1 year flyer, don't do it in a pressure packed New York place where they have a lot of expectations and all, you know, you have a history and all that shit. This is like a clean slate for him to try to ball out for 1 year to go get like a $200 million deal that I think he always thought he was going to get when he was first coming up as Big Bad Thor.
If that was going to be the case, the team needed to like leak the fact that he's probably not coming back, because he said he was coming back. He alluded to the fact he's coming back. He was posting all this shit on Instagram, like I love New York, with like the mosaics and shit that's painted on the walls, literally. And we're looking at last year with Strowman, who balled out after taking the qualifying, and now he's going to leave. It's like, it sucks just because you were expecting it. Yes.
He's playing the game, man. He's doing, you know, hashtag LFGM. He's going to make it look like I wanted, like, it's not my fault. I don't want these fans blaming me. And if that is the case, yeah, the Mets needed to, like, play. So I think, like, if it all depends on, like, the mindset at this point. Like, I probably, if I was Steve Cohen right now, I would be thinking, like, all right, this is way more of, like, a convoluted fucking mess than I ever expected. Weird shit going on with trying to fill my GM position. Like, this has now become a much more long-term plan. I don't give a like, okay, Noah Syndergaard walks, whatever. But in the short term, like for right now, yeah, they need something to come out that's like, yeah, Syndergaard had no intention of signing here, or something that makes it look like, you know, it wasn't just. If you cannot let fans believe this is like a $2 million difference. And you're stupid if you think it is. We're reading that they're not going to care about the luxury tax, but you think that we're not willing to give Noah $2 million more. Like, something's not adding up here, and it's because I think the guy just made up his mind.
Yeah, no, I think that's 100% right. And I can't even like blame him if he hates the place or whatever. If it was a 5-year deal for, you know, 200 million, 150 million, you're just like, you know, you're not willing to go that far for a guy coming off Tommy John, I'd say, hey, that's fine. But a 1-year deal where it's like $2 million more and you have the richest owner in the sport just ready to fucking pay him. I would love to know, because this whole Epler thing, right? So that's the other side of this. And we're going to talk about Epler in a minute. Epler used to be the Angels GM, signs here. Apparently him and Moreno they butted heads a bit. And that was, I think, part of the reason why people think his tenure ended the way it did. I wonder if it's like they signed, I can't imagine it'd be this far, but like they signed Epler, fuck them. Cohen and Moreno, right? They don't like each other. Moreno was one of the guys who voted against Cohen, right? So maybe he's like, let's go fucking sign Noah. Fuck these guys. We're the Angels. We always need pitching. And they go from there, right? I can't throw that out. Like, rich guys are pettier than anyone else in the world.
It might be that Cohen really has more bullseyes on his back than like we ever anticipated. I fucking, as long as, you know, I love the idea of it, because when he finally does turn this shit around, it's going to be like, fuck you, it's us against the world. But in the short term, it's much more like, Jesus Christ, I didn't think that there was going to be any major issues with this. But I guess if people have like a personal problem with this dude, then let's go to war then, you know?
Well, and like on the flip side, we're getting a ton of draft picks. Like, if they wanted to build the farm and that was their main focus, like, yeah, now we have them out the fucking ass. But it's like, now we have to wait.
I also, listen, dude, we have to wait. Like, wipe this fucking idea from your brain that we're going anywhere anytime soon. We have like we're signing a GM with the intention of signing another GM in the future already. Like, we are officially into long-term planning, which is what we should have been all along. We all along should have said, dude, the New York Mets are one of the biggest laughingstocks in all of sports, and we think we're gonna turn it around in 3 years? Why? How is that? There are franchises that are in great shape that are built to win who aren't going to get the job done in 3 years. We have to overhaul everything from top to bottom. It's going to take fucking forever. And now we have to do it with like people working against us. Now we have to do it swimming upstream. So yeah, no, it's going to be a long-term thing. And I know like fans who think that I'm like carrying their water or never say anything bad about them. It's not that. It's that if you're in the long-term mentality, this is like, these are early lumps and bumps that you're going to take in order to turn it around and be like a long-term sustained success type of franchise. And when that happens, that's when you look back at the first few years, not the first, the one season or the first off season, the first like several years where it was like, yeah, this shit was ugly for a while. Because I mean, I still genuinely believe something weird was up with this GM situation. I don't think there's any other explanation. Like, there's no logical explanation. It's only kind of conspiratorial shit where it's like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, and that kind of we'll kind of just pivot to Epler right now. First of all, electric picture. Did you guys see the picture of him in the shades where it just says Billy Epler under the sign? So I could kind of like, I'm like, all right, I'm starting to fucking warm up on this fucking idiot here. Again, yeah, there we go. everyone throw your shades on. Fuck it. Yeah, I'm gonna throw some shades on too. I just blogged it. We have the podcast up on the blog, so we're gonna go Bill Epler style the rest of this fucking podcast. The guy who basically wasted Mike Trout's first half of his prime and can't like put it together a pitching staff to save his life. Not the best look right off the bat for Uncle Stevie. No. But we are in fucking Arrested Development. I believe that's the word for it. We're like just in baseball purgatory right now where it's like we waited 2 years for Uncle Stevie to sign on the bottom line. We had last year where it was like this fucking weird year where we never really truly had our GM and our like the whole Sandy double GM and this whole front office he had planned. Now we are signing a GM without a president of baseball operations, and now we're being told that that Epler and David Stearns are boys. Stearns is a diehard Mets fan. The Brewers won't let him interview, but he wants to come here. The Score reported that the other day. And like we're in this suspended animation where we're just like, I just want to come. Just let me come. That's all I want. Just like put this
blue balls. We got baseball. We got baseball, blue balls. We're edging.
Yeah,
we're edging here, and we're gonna have to edge for like another season and a half before we can come, Clem.
Yeah, and we have orange and blue balls. There it is. Like that's the fucking title of the episode. Orange and blue balls. We're fucking so. Kyle made me feel a little better. I saw he tweeted some stuff out of We Gotta Believe on Twitter that he like he was the assistant GM of the Yankees and he was seen as like a bright baseball mind. Moreno is just like an absolute shit can of an owner. So
yeah,
you don't know what you're getting with him.
Granted, we've had bad GMs under the Wilpons, so yes, they do deserve the blame. But like, if you have a competent baseball mind under the Wilpons, would you blame them or the Wilpons? You blame a shitty owner, Yeah. Like anything that happens in Anaheim has to be taken with a little bit of a grain of salt. But that being said, we can kind of sugarcoat this and talk, like kind of defend this or spin this. This sucks. Like this sucks. Your main guy, the dude who's supposed to be like running your team is a fucking nobody, like who, or even worse than that, a guy who's known for like wasting big talent. This is not good. This is not good. Yeah. The only solace I'm taking is that like this isn't really Steve Cohen's pick. We know it's not. We know that he was like, well, we're on our fucking 11th choice. We gotta fucking pick somebody. So knowing that it's more of like we had to sign this guy, not we wanted to sign this guy, makes me feel better that like we're not morons, but it doesn't make me feel better about what's about to happen because I really have no, when we start the fucking the off season being like, let's go talk to Billy Beane and Theo Epstein, and we end up with fucking this guy, that's not.
It's also a situation where like he knows that we're desperate and we have to sign somebody. So when the numbers come out, I'm assuming he's getting a big payday, and also it's going to be long term, where it's going to be like got to be 3 years, right? You're not taking that job otherwise. He was about to build the entire baseball branch of the new sports agency where their top player was Carlos Correa. Like they just put him in charge of that whole thing. He was there for 2 months to leave that up to come to the Mets. So you're not doing that and giving up all that on like a short-term notice because he could just wait a year and get hired by Stearns if you really wanted to wait.
Is there truth to this idea that Stearns wants to come?
He said it's a precarious situation because he can't speak on it and he knows he's not allowed to interview, but he knows the Mets want him.
But like, so to me, the Brewers denying that is like for them. and a big that seems like a guy who would want to come here, right? Like why else would you stop the guy?
Yeah, well, and that just comes back to this entire the black ball or whatever the fuck is going on situation with this. And is it that all these people were turning it down because they knew if it wasn't a black ball situation? Is it that no one wanted to work for Sandy for a year, knowing that they're going to have new Boston Stearns next year? But it's not, how do you just not get an interview before this Epler? You have 20 guys turning you down. It just makes no fucking sense.
That's why I just don't know how else to spin it. And not even spin it. I'm just trying to make sense of it. I'm just hoping that behind the scenes, Stearns wants to come. Cohen's like, yeah, we're going to get him. Let me go get one of his boys who's basically going to take a back seat when he does get here or whatever. I don't know. And all of this sounds so stupid and far-fetched. We're now talking about secret, agreements amongst friends because you can't interview, but it's how else are we supposed to make sense of what just happened here? It's not even like an LOL Mets thing. There's only fucking a handful of these jobs on the planet Earth. And if you have a chance to interview for them, you fucking take the interview. You take the job. And if you don't and you're not, something is going on. It's crazy.
It all leads back to that. I mean, all this shit, the Noah stuff, the Epler stuff, it leads back to whatever the fuck's going on with the Cohen interviews and whatever it is. I don't know where it starts, where it ends. I don't know, man. Epler, I'll at least give him a shot. I was straight up. We had him, and then we had the other dude who was a lawyer, and then there was all the Trump stuff involved, right? And I was like, oh, motherfucker, here we go.
Well, this one, I saw fucking Rosenthal or somebody wrote an article about he got saddled with Pujols' contract. He wasted away Trout and Ohtani. And, oh, by the way, he tried to pin the Tyler Skaggs overdose on Epler.
I saw that.
I was like,
that was crazy.
Fuck? How do you jump
that
to
was
that?
Nuts. That was
anything. It's a trainer and whatever else was going on. And
that was insane.
If he's with that, I just want – if he's going to suck at his job, just be a nobody that we never hear from. I don't care if you're going to be shit at your job. I can't have any more headlines. We can't have a third GM get fired within a year.
That's
also,
the biggest thing.
By far. I mean, is he responsible for guys like Trout and Ohtani and some of the bright spots of Anaheim? Can we not look at this from the bright side in a way? Because I need something right now, boys. I need something.
He extended Trout indefinitely. He's going to keep him
there
for his whole career, and he signed Ohtani.
Yeah, listen, the way I'm going to view this guy signed the two best players in baseball, okay?
Yeah, exactly. Let's go. Let's go.
You know what? When the Yankees couldn't land Ohtani, and you got the Franceses of the world being oh, this is the biggest mistake ever made. The Yankees dodged a bullet. Who was there getting Ohtani? It was Epler. When he had a chance to get Mike Trout, what did he do? He put $400 million on the table. Epler knows what's up. Epler is the truth.
Yo, imagine walking into that room. Fucking Mike Trout is just sitting there. He's probably eating saltines or something because he's nothing extravagant, right? And then comes badass Billy Epler, shades on, just sits down to negotiate. Go, Mike, you're signing with the fucking Angels. I ain't leaving here without your fucking signature or your brains on this contract. And he's like,
exactly.
All right, badass Billy. I fucking bend the knee. It's fucking Ohtani, two-way superstar. They're making up awards of how great this guy is. Epler signed him for $20. He signed him for 20 fucking. It was unbelievable. The fucking guy is a genius.
We should be calling GM of the year, executive of the year is now called Epler of the year because he knew to sign Ohtani. Okay.
Yep. You see, he wrestled away from the Yankees. I'm sure there was the Dodgers were involved and shit like that. He went to fucking Anaheim. He went to, no one goes to Anaheim. People who go to Disney don't even want to go to Anaheim. Oh, we are fucking good, man. We are.
I love the spin zone going on here.
Oh shit! It's
I gotta hope he's been big with the splashes for free agency. You can't even deny that because he got Rendon, signed Ohtani,
hang on, am I back?
Signed Trout. Yes. So you gotta hope maybe Sandy will just take care of the farm. Sandy will take care of the farm and the pitching. And then he just gets Uncle Stevie's money to go run wild with during free agency. That's all you can hope for.
And that's the thing is, the draft picks does matter too, right? We have our draft pick. We have the draft pick from what's his name?
Kumar Rocker.
rocker. And then the comp pick, which I guess if we don't sign a guy who accepted the qualifying offer, and then we could have Conforto's qualifying, we get a comp pick from him too, right? So that would be 4
We
picks.
get Conforto and Syndergaard, and we have the rollover from last year. So we have like 4 or 5 picks in the top 80 picks of the draft.
I just need to hear how fucking good this. I need to hear this is like the best draft of all time. Like I think 23 in the NBA. That's like the double lottery pick they call it, the double lottery draft, because you could have high schoolers coming in. It's just going to be all this talent. Tell me like there's nothing but 120 mile per hour arms in this draft.
Yeah, bro. I'm telling you, if you reshift your mind to long term, this is all going to be a good thing. Yeah. Does it suck that we're going to end up wasting DeGrom? Sure. Does it suck that this is going to be a much longer plan than we initially thought? Absolutely. But now we're stacking picks. We're stacking money. We're planning for the future. I mean, that's all I got. That's all I can do. I don't know, man. I'm trying my hardest here. Somebody just tweeted. This woman just tweeted out a picture of her and her 7-year-old daughter. She said, we're at Disney World right now. We were in Cinderella's castle having a good time, and now my 7-year-old is crying because we just heard the news Noah Syndergaard is gone. I mean, listen, it's not good. But if you're crying over Noah Syndergaard, it's not like we lost DeGrom here. We're talking about a guy who hasn't pitched in multiple years, hasn't pitched well in several years. Clearly doesn't want to be here. It's like sometimes you got to just say, all right, man, do you. Peace.
How much extra money is Stroman about to receive? Because I feel like now Uncle Stevie's calling him up, like whatever number you're asking for,
otherwise you're
on top of it.
Otherwise, we're talking like you roll into this season. Like, is there tanking in baseball? Can we tank? Because at that point,
did it for years, worked out for them.
I was going to say, at that point, just blow this the fuck up, trade Jake, trade what are you going to do if you roll in there with like a one-man rotation?
God, I just saw this too. Someone tweeted it at me. The picture of the 5 aces or whatever in Bartolo, and it's only DeGrom is the only guy.
The last one. I know. I know, man.
Crazy. I can't it's unbelievable. That's we made the World Series in 15. Everyone was there and everyone was healthy-ish, right? And now everyone's just gone except for Jake, who was on the DL for the second half of the season this year. It's not easy.
What do we got, pal? How we doing? What are you thinking?
We got Joe DeMayo on.
Let's do it, Joe.
What's going on?
How you feeling?
Got some cheery news for us?
Figured I'd chime in. Let's talk a little of what's going on here.
Yeah, where are you at on the whole thing? Like we've been talking about. I think there's some sort of collusion going on with the GM. I personally believe Syndergaard probably wanted to leave. Big picture and small picture. What do you got right now over the last few weeks?
I mean, obviously the GM search was very difficult to follow. I mean, I was
crazy.
I was getting excited about this person, that person, and it just constantly was an issue. I honestly think it's a mix of things. I think there are some people that are concerned with what Sandy Ellerson's role is. I think there are people out there that are concerned about Steve Cohen, where he has to prove himself.
In what regard though? Like what can an owner do to prove himself other than
unfortunately, right?
What's that?
Yeah, unfortunately it's time. He can only prove
right. Like but that's
the idea in the game from what I've heard is there are some people that are worried that he is George Steinbrenner reincarnated, which there's good sides of George Steinbrenner and there's bad sides of George Steinbrenner. One thing that people don't talk about with George very often is he struggled to get people to come work for him. Cashman, perfect blend where it worked, but people didn't want to work for George because there was fear of,
But why? What has happened? Is there something I'm missing or something behind the scenes, or do people really are they just afraid of him because of fucking billions? Like, what has he done so far that has been so bad?
He hasn't done anything. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I think it's just a preconceived notion, I think.
Right.
From some people.
Here's what needs to happen. Steve Cohen needs to sit down for an interview with We Gotta Believe. Because this guy needs to explain, he needs to put out there who he is, that he's not some fucking like shark who will like rip your head off if you fuck up. He's not some criminal. He's like a normal dude who has done everything in his power. He's made the right calls. He's gotten interviews or at least conversations with Theo and Billy Bean. And like all an owner can do is put that out there. And if either A, nobody wants to come, or B, someone's like colluding to make sure nobody can even interview with you. What can you do? And honestly, and I keep going back to this, but the fan base has to step up at some point and be a good fan base and realize that it is just a matter of time. Like, as an owner, there's only so much you can do. So back our guy now, because it's going to take a little bit longer than you fucking wanted. It's not, you can't be a child about this. Like, I want a World Series right now.
So
Sorry,
one thing that I think to note too with the Dodgers, like everyone's saying the Dodgers are the model, right? And when the Guggenheim Group bought the Dodgers, whenever they bought them, number one, they kept their GM in place that they had for 4 years before, because they were waiting for that great GM to come. And it took them 9 years to win a World Series, and it was the Mickey Mouse 60-game World Series.
Right.
So I wish Steve Cohen never said 3 to 5 years. I think
Agreed.
He put himself into a hole. It's very hard to win a World Series. And
but honestly, wouldn't you? I would rather him now come out and say that. Like, I'd rather honesty is the fucking way to go with this shit. If he stepped up and said, you know what, I was real excited. I was a little bit like, optimistic. I thought that we had a really good core that I could come in here and just put them over the top. And I'm now realizing, we got to shift our expectations. I'd so much rather that than
And by the way, the ones that are concerned that he's going to be Steinbrenner, it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy, because the more you string him along and the more people that he can't hire and can't do anything, he's going to be like, fuck everyone and just blow past whatever the luxury tax is and just try to buy his way to the championship, because he's like that. He's going to be the guy who, I made this promise and now I have to come through on it. Otherwise, I know I'm going to get dragged.
Clem, do you remember when we first got Cohen the first time around? I said, dude, this is amazing because we are going to win a World Series in the next 10 years. I was like, take it to the bank. We're going to get one in 10 years. But I gave 3 to 5 times longer, double what fucking Cohen gave himself. And I was okay with that as a fan. I was like, it's all good. In the next week, we've suffered for 35 years. In the next 10, we're going to get one. And then he came along and got us all excited by saying 3 to 5. And because we thought we had a good core and DeGrom, we thought it was possible. And now we're realizing it's not. But if it takes 10, that's fucking okay. That's how long it's probably going to take.
They haven't won in my life. What do I? Right. 5 or 10. I don't give a crap.
Right. That's the thing. And that's where I really fucking wish our fan base would get on board with that and be the reasonable fan base. But right now, I mean, it's just crazy to me to think we've never won a World Series in pretty much all of our lifetimes. And we got fans out here being like, how come we're not winning the World Series right now? It's crazy.
Yeah. The Braves won, and I actually had like a deep, dark moment in the back of my head. And I was like, if I die before this fucking team wins anything, I don't know what I'm going to do on my deathbed. Like, he said 3 to 5.
But even
those are your last words.
Honestly, I mean, I'm so encouraged by hearing those reports that we have tripled the analytics team. And by the way, that fucking thing yesterday, 2 days ago, whenever that went viral, not viral, but around Mets Twitter being no baseball experience required for a fucking internship, a 2-month summer internship.
Analytics internship at that, not a pitching coach internship.
Right. You know that it was just a cube monkey. Like, we need you to go through our Excel data. Right. No baseball, I mean, come on. Everything.
The people that work at NASA don't know everything about fucking space. They're math guys.
Right.
Figure out how to put me on the moon. I don't care everything that happens once you get in the spacecraft. Like,
that guy also,
somebody that's going to put together the algorithm that finds you the next great player. Like, that's all you need them for.
Bro, forget about that. That position was somebody go get coffee. It was a literal summer internship. Give me a break, guys. Come on.
Ultimately, I think analytics, kind of to what Kyle said, baseball knowledge, honestly, the last thing you want in your analytics department is to be skewed by old school baseball knowledge. You want them to be inventive, creative, trying to find the next thing. You don't want them to be, sitting there and going off some old school thought processes. And it's probably a lot easier to teach these Ivy League kids baseball lingo than it is to teach
the other way around
the state school how to build predictive analytical models.
What I want a whole team of nerds who is just looking at numbers and arbitrage and all that shit, building a payroll, and then I want some old school scouts and guys with a good eye, and then you have a guy in the middle who is hopefully not fucking Epler in the long term, who makes a decision based on both of those things.
Yeah.
What do you think about Epler? Do you have any upside or?
I think he's the best, certainly the best that they could have gotten. Once they got out of that grouping of Theo Stearns, Bean, and Matt Arnold was probably even next for me. After that, I think he made more sense than any of these assistants they were talking to. Ultimately, what's one thing everybody wants? Sandy Alderson not making baseball decisions.
Yo, I hear you and I get that, but also, do we not forget that like coming into last year, nobody really had a problem with Sandy?
Oh yeah, we all know it's recency, right? And it's
right,
just,
like
it's the way it is. But to me, I think it's a good thing that they're bringing in someone that's capable. And Sandy, from everything that I've heard, genuinely did not want to do baseball anymore. Like,
right,
he wants to be an advisor. He wants to sit at the table, which he's going to the Hall of Fame one day. So if he wants to give me advice on the side, feel free. But they hired someone that, there's a lot of things that we can question about him. Obviously, the Angels' lack of success, the pitching staff that he was unable to build. That owner is, let's just call him difficult to work for. So that's even almost a positive. So if you have these preconceived notions about Cohen, he probably can't be worse than Artie Moreno. So
what do you think? What do you think Epler? If you were Epler, what would like your introductory press conference sound like? What would you say?
I would say that, I'm coming back to New York, which is where I was born and bred here. I love New York. I think the Mets have an opportunity to succeed. We have an ownership that's willing to put up a payroll that, like, so Joe's estimation is the Mets are going to have the highest payroll next year in baseball. So the assets are there as far as financial. There is an infrastructure in place organizationally. The scouting department, the team is mostly homegrown, and it's been the same scouting department for the last decade plus. So they can draft, they can scout. The analytics department's getting built up. And I would say there is still pieces of a core. I think the reality is the core that we thought the Mets had just wasn't the right core.
The core, yeah,
they
it's not the real core.
They haven't done anything in years. What's the need to keep bringing back the same band and being like, well, they're going to live up to their potential this time? It's time to just shake this damn thing up. And I think Epler's a guy that's ready to come in day one, run baseball operations. He doesn't need his handheld. Like the guy Adam Cromie that was rumored, Sandy Alderson would basically have had to completely run baseball, and Cromie would just sit there and have like
we don't want that.
They have a guy that's ready to run baseball operations, and how good he is, time will tell. And of course, they're going to keep pushing the David Stearns best friend thing. And maybe a couple years from now, you're building that two-headed monster at the top with one of the biggest analytic teams in the sport, and scouting and player development. And there's reasons to be optimistic. I'm not jumping for joy over Epler, but he's definitely the best they could have gotten him.
I get why they go with the Stearns angle, but I don't want that as like the precursor to the next year when we don't fucking get him. And it's like, I don't need any other like side note reference, whatever. Just say this is the guy we wanted to hire because we wanted him.
Oh yeah, no,
I don't want it like down the road type of thing, because that was the whole thing with Sandy. We're like, oh, we got Sandy, so then obviously Billy Bean's going to want to work here, and we have Billy Bean, so obviously like we're going to get the athletics manager. It's like I don't need any of that. I just want the one guy to come in and do what we pay him to do.
And they hired someone that's capable to do it. That's what's important. Like if they hired one of these assistants and painted that future Stearns picture, I think it's a lot worse. But they hired someone who's actually capable of doing the job.
When you say you think the Mets will have the highest payroll, like who do you think? What do you think the team looks like? Yeah, like who do you think we're going after? Who do you think we land?
I assume Baez is back. I think at this point they're.
So wait, let's say so Syndergaard gone, Stroman, Conforto.
Yep. Well, Stroman not necessarily. I think Stroman. Okay. I think there's a possibility you see Stroman back, because one thing that we have to account for with the Syndergaard deal is obviously it's from an emotional standpoint, it stinks that he's gone. But from like a logical baseball standpoint, the Mets just added $18.5 million more that they could spend. And a spot in rotation for a guy that's thrown 2 innings in the last 2 years, are you really able to rely on him?
I think this would be a lot better if there was a big pitcher on the market. I think we'd be a lot happier. It would be a lot easier to swallow if it was like, okay, we're gonna go turn around and get if there was like a Garrett Cole on the market. But like when people are talking about Scherzer, it's like, well, replacing some guy that we thought was maybe going to be here for the entire prime of his career with like a 38, however you're old. It's like
it's Scherzer, it's Kershaw, and it's Verlander. So it's like if we were 1 year away and we think, hey, like let's hope all these guys can recapture the magic. Like, yeah, go pay them all for a year, and then hopefully you just put together a crazy run. But like if those are the guys on the market, and Berrios just got extended for 7 years, like the market's going to be barren. And we're also going up against the Blue Jays are looking to add to their starting rotation. Like they know that they're on the cusp of winning, and they're going to go out there and try to get all the guys that we're going to try to go after. So it's
I hate to say it. I hate to say it, but doesn't this all add up to thinking like our window is just not right now, and now is the time for patience?
Maybe. I mean, it really depends how they work this offseason, right? Like to me, what makes Epler in a sense a good thing is this offseason is probably the biggest offseason they've had in years, where they cannot miss. Otherwise, to your point, if they miss this offseason, they're going to fall into a really tough spot.
But that's what I mean. Like, I also don't feel like they are one off season away from hitting. Like, I don't think they're in position really, not only because of them, but because of the market itself. I just don't think they're in a spot to be like, okay, if it all goes well, we're winning the title next year.
Probably right. But what you want to do is really build up this team as much as you can so that, all right, maybe you don't win this year, but you're in position where 2023 could be a little better, or 2024. Right. So for me, my rotation, I'd bring Stroman back, and I'd sign John Gray from Colorado, who I think would be similar type upside that Noah has, but I'm pretty confident he's actually going to go pitch 150 plus innings.
McMahon, what do you think about the Mets?
Mets.
Tell me. Get
the McMahon. Oh, what a hilarious organization.
You son of a bitch.
Well,
I'm going to
let.
let.
Have a coach? Like, what do you guys have? You got no second baseman. You got a shortstop who was good in Cleveland, but then he moved.
He probably did.
Right, and that's goalie. That's goalie, folks. I'm gonna let Joe D fill in for me. I got to do a little behind the blog, but you guys keep chopping up and let me know when I should kill myself. Thank you. Bye.
Fuck you, McMahon. Joe, I got to ask. Obviously, PSL to Flushing. Is that PSL to Flushing, right? That's the exact Twitter tag. So we're dealing with every line of the Mets here. So the big thing here is we're also getting a comp pick. We're going to be getting a comp pick for Conforto. We're going to have our Kumar Rocker pick plus our own pick. Is this draft? Do you know anything about the draft here? Are we looking like tell me this is the best draft in 50 years? There's a Mantle, a Mays, a Bonds, and a fucking Trout, as well as like the 5 better versions of Syndergaard out there. Do you know anything about this right now?
Early indications are it's one of the stronger drafts of the last, let's call it 5 years. So it's a strong draft. It's a deep draft, are what early indications are. And I'm at the age now. I'm 33. I'll be 34 in a couple months, but I'm 33. I am now officially at the age where players who I really, really remember playing sons are getting in the draft. 2 of the top probably 15 prospects in the draft, Andrew Jones's son and Carl Ford's son.
Wow.
So, no, but it's a strong draft. And ultimately, I tweeted about the picks that they're going to have, and I got read the room and people freaking out like, shit, it's part of the equation. And they need to build up this farm system. It doesn't mean you don't go sign a bunch of really good players right now, but if you have these picks, this farm system that right now has some really, really high-end talent with Alvarez and Beatty and Mauricio and Mark Vientos and JT Ginn and Matt Allen when he comes off Tommy John, takes a really big kind of dip after that grouping. Mm-hmm. You have the chance in one draft class to flip this system from, a 20 to 21st ranked system to a top 10 system in the game overnight, basically.
So,
and that's a plus.
What are your thoughts on Castellanos? Because at first I didn't think we were going to pursue him because they didn't want to lose the compensation pick. But now that we have an extra one to play around with, do you think they're going to go try to get him to fill Conforto's hole?
No, I don't. I still don't think they're going to sign a qualifying offer free agent. And because at the end of the day, the comp pick that they're getting here, so Syndergaard goes, that pick's going to be in like the 60s. It's going to be after the second round. So it's not exactly a wash to lose the 14th overall pick to get a pick in the 60s. So I don't think so. And honestly, Castellanos is a hell of a hitter, but to me, he's kind of a DH that you fake it in the outfield. And I want to see some defense. Like Starling Marte is one of my top targets. I want Marte. You shift Nimmo over to left. Then you're having really good defense in 2/3 of the outfield. You have one more outfield spot still to fill. But Marte, to me, reminds me of, in a way, like signing Curtis Granderson back in the day, where it's like he's a little older. He's probably got limited time left in center field, but the guy can hit and he can run. To me, Starling Marte should be one of the prime targets, and he doesn't have a qualifying offer attached to him. So that, to me, even makes him more valuable.
Yeah, I'm with you on Marte. I mean, obviously he's older, which is a little bit of a concern, but I don't think he's going to be one of those guys that a team's going to like have a crazy long contract for that you have to match with the money too, right?
I think the first team that goes to 4 years will get him, because I think everyone wants him for 3, and I think the first team that goes to 4 probably gets him. And look, we're at the time now.
We're gonna overcompensate now.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. That's what the advantage of Steve Cohen is supposed to be. Obviously, like, you can spin that in the Syndergaard thing, right? Like, well, they could have given him $3 million more and they could have kept him. But, that's what having Steve Cohen is, in my opinion. It's the ability to do that extra year, go that little extra money. But I think if you took this from just a baseball logic standpoint, the Syndergaard thing makes all the sense in the world. You offered him $18 million off 2 innings in the last 2 years. He got more, and you're like, I could reinvest this money and get a draft pick. All right, we'll go for it. So yeah, it's gonna be a very, very interesting offseason. And obviously there's a lot of shit hitting the fan now.
Before you came on, we were saying we don't think it would have stung as much if it didn't feel like we were just blindsided by it, because it just seemed like a foregone conclusion that he was coming back. I was also hearing that Stroman's looking out west as well. I don't think he's going to sign with us. I think if we do throw a certain number at him, he obviously will, because he's got family here and he likes it in New York and everything like that. But it sounds like he's heading west also now, from what I was hearing. So
I mean, it's possible, but I am a firm believer, and I think we always overhype these scenarios. 99% of free agents go to whatever the most money is on a deal. Like, there's always those select few that'll take less to go somewhere else. But remember last year, all we were talking about was George Springer and his family from Connecticut. Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
He got, if the Mets offered as much money as the Blue Jays did, then he probably would be a Met. But the Blue Jays offered more, so he's like, well, guess what? I'll just go to Canada instead. So ultimately, these guys are going to take the money, and you wonder if the Mets will feel any pressure to be aggressive on Stroman after losing Syndergaard, because I don't think they expected it either, to be totally honest. Right. So that's something to watch. And if they lose Stroman, all right, we're really gonna have to get creative here.
Yep.
I mean, now we're looking back to, it's like, now you're just filling rotation spots. You have DeGrom, who, again, you just, like, at DeGrom at this point, you just have to be like, he's coming back. He's going to be healthy, because you can't imagine a world where that's not the case, right? Because that's worst case scenario. We're basically fucked right off the jump. Carrasco, it's like, all right, get an opener for him. That'll fix all his issues with the first inning, and he was actually pretty good after that. But now it's like the Petersons, the McGills, right? It's like those guys are suddenly 4 or 5 guys, where it was like they were kind of 5, 6 guys in depth for the rotation. And it's getting towards that real quick. And then you're looking at your Rich Hill kind of Band-Aids. Obviously, Taiwan's back, and you need good Taiwan, not bad Taiwan. Right. But
I'm optimistic about Taiwan, actually, in a big way, because to me, so this year, obviously the second half was really rough, but it was the most innings he basically threw almost in his career. So he was healthy. He did his thing. I think he just hit dead arm. That's what I think. He just hit a dead arm period where he just didn't have it. And then he turned it on a little bit at the very, very end of the season when it didn't matter. But I'm optimistic about Taiwan. Carrasco is probably the biggest thing outside of DeGrom at this point, where you need Cookie.
Communion wafer.
You need Cookie back. And he's been good for basically his whole career. And I mean, it's the story of the Mets in a sense, right? They bring someone in that's had this long sustained career of success, and they come to the Mets and it hits the fan.
Oh God, yeah. The fact that Lindor's wearing number 12, get Alomar flashbacks from Cleveland, right? And it's like, I don't need that. But I think, and that's the other thing. We didn't really even touch on this, but with the pitching staff, because now obviously there's a hole in the staff. I do think like there's going to be a move made, whether it's Dom being moved out, McNeil, JD Double Davis, part of that core that I don't think is going to come back, fully, even Nimmo. I think now it's like a starter, even if it's a, back of the end rotation guy. Maybe that's the move that they end up making, because if Baez does come back and we have Cano here, which, I mean, I guess that's kind of the DH, which God willing comes third base. I mean, if Bryant or if that's an option or whoever they get there, but like there's not a lot of positions
that are at third base. I think they'll go short term at third base, because I do think they have visions with Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos who are on the cusp. I mean, both those guys are going to be in AAA, so it's not like people are talking about the Yankees and shortstops, and they're like, well, they got these guys in single A where they're years away. A lot of things could go wrong. These guys are on the doorstep. So I'm thinking you see something short term at third. Bryant does make sense with his versatility, though. You could say, hey, play for a year, and then you go play right field going forward. So it could be an option, but I would guess short term at third base. And starting pitching, you need numbers, man. That's what it comes down to. I mean, when we went into spring last year before Carrasco got hurt and everything happened, like I remember being like, man, they got 5 rock solid starters, and they got Joey Lucchesi as a 6. They got Yamamoto. Everything seemed good, and we didn't even. I mean, I knew. Sure, yeah, we knew who I knew who Tyler McGill was, but no one else did. I thought he was a reliever, and lo and behold, he became one of the most important starters. So you need numbers in the rotation. That's what I think. I hope they learn that lesson, that they need to add depth. Like you said, maybe they're trading a JD Davis, and it's not JD Davis and something for impact third baseman Matt Chapman or something like that. Yeah. Maybe it's JD Davis for young, controllable starting pitcher that has minor league options. So if they don't make the rotation, they could be in AAA, because you need 10 starters that you could count on to get through a season.
The Braves are a perfect example. Like, there's no one you're really pointing to there where you're like, well, that guy was a stud and carried them the whole way through. I mean, they had some guys just emerge at the end when they needed them, but you're pitching by committee.
In the major leagues, start World Series games,
right? And shut.
Yeah, it was crazy, but to me, depth is key, and then they're going to make a couple impactful moves. I think you're going to see 2 to 3 big moves, and then from there, it's about hitting on the mid-level moves. When you acquire these stars, for the most part, generally speaking, they're going to perform the way they should.
I mean, we should be talking about VR being like the greatest pickup in the history of the Mets if they made it to the playoffs last year. Yeah. It would be solely on that guy's shoulders that came out of nowhere to be like the X factor to put it over the top.
Yeah. You need to find, all right, this year's VR. Like, I don't know exactly who that is, but who is this year's VR? Or Kevin Pillar was useful, obviously, for the team. Taijuan Walker. And, like, everyone's thinking big money. And they're, like I said, they're going to do big money things. But you or I could be the GM if we just need to spend Steve's money on big, talented players. The point in hiring Billy Epler and the point of building up this analytics department to almost 30 people is so you're finding the Taijuan Walkers, or you're finding the Robbie Ray. Robbie Ray signed for 1 year and $7 million last year at Toronto, and he's going to win the Cy Young probably. Mm-hmm. So the key is to use these really smart people and make the smart moves. That's the difference between being, a solid to good team and a great team, in my opinion.
No, it's fair. And again, I think that's the thing that gets lost in this is everyone talks about, they missed Springer, which Springer would have driven us nuts last year if he had all those injuries, right?
He was out until like July.
Yeah.
Imagine
this became like an Alar Stan podcast. Like, that was our squad and the bench mob and all that. And it was Villar, Pilar, and Taijuan Walker made an all-star team. It's like they did all right in free agency last year, and whatever those numbers, if they could spit them out again, and then if they're kind of spending on the next tier of kind of stars. Like, I don't want to say like full confidence in the front office right now, but I feel like we'll do all right with that. The problem with the Wilpons is they would never actually the money that we missed out on. And again, like, think about this: Springer and Bauer. Those are the 2 guys we missed out on. Thank the fucking Lord that happened. And then all that money, instead of just being like,
honestly, I don't know how they missed out on Bauer, because that scenario is very like, that's so messy to hype my my podcast. But
listen to Joe's podcast, subscribe, break 5 stars, everything.
Yeah, that's so Mets would be them getting Bauer, and all that happening. But what do you guys think about Baez? I haven't really asked you guys anything. Is he someone you want to invest in?
I'm thumbs up. We'll do the thumbs up on Baez. That two thumbs up I'll even do. And I'm saying this knowing he's going to piss me off. He's going to, do some stuff that's going to just drive me crazy. And it's going to be Yo. It's like Yo 2.0. He's an infielding Yo in my mind. But I think he's much more of like a sound investment than Yo was at that point of his career. And I'm like, you just can't let a guy like that out of the building, especially if you have aspirations to get to the big stage. Guys like that show up. They put their nuts on the table and they say, let's fucking rock. And again, you can't – I don't think you can discount what he would mean to Lindor being here. I think that is like you have to put that into context for sure. Kyle?
I think he's young enough. I think he brings all those intangibles they're looking for to like hype up the team on and off the field. I do think that it was a little bit of we're expecting the guy that we just saw for the last 2 months versus the guy that he is for the majority of his career when it comes to contact and striking out and everything like that. That being said, I'm totally fine with that if he's going to drive in the runs. If he's going to produce and hit the home runs that we're looking for him to produce, we have to fill in. I know Conforto sucked last year, but like we have to fill in for the fact that that's a lot of production that's going out the door on a constant every season basis. Last year's an aberration. So I think that if he's available and he's willing to come here for a sweetheart deal, not $200 million. I know he's already lowered that, but he wants enough money to be able to change positions because he's a shortstop and he's going to be playing second base. So I think if he's willing to come there and meet us in the middle when it comes to like the deal and the years and everything, I'd be happy to have him. That's for sure. Then they got to figure out what they're doing with all of our other positions. But you got Cano coming back. There's a whole other like clusterfuck in this lineup and who's staying and who's going to be going if they sign him. But I'd take him back for sure.
Yeah, Cano's going to be playing some third base in winter ball. So he might be your short-term third baseman, at least to, maybe in a platoon situation.
Yeah.
You can do some DH. You're stuck with them, man. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Unless he fails another steroid test, you got 2 years and $40 million left with Robinson Cano.
Right.
The sins of Brody continue to live on in this franchise. It is what it is. All right, so Joe, the most important thing I'm going to take out of this conversation, and you kind of sold me on it, is third base, which is like, let's call it what it is. It's like it's the elephant graveyard for the Mets. David Wright was like the brightest, most perfect star we could ever have. He was a Mets fan growing up. He's like basically Jesus Christ with a glove, right? And we ruined his life basically. It's Bono stenosis, everything. But you're telling me that there is like these two, like the two guys there, Batty and I can never say the other guy's name, Vientos or whatever. They're closer. I didn't think they were that close. I know they were going to play AAA. I didn't think they were that close. Like you're saying, maybe after the All-Star break or 23. What are we thinking for them in terms of time?
So and also let's throw Ronnie Mauricio's name in the fold. Sure. He's a shortstop. Yep. I think he projects best as third base long term, and clearly is not a shortstop here anytime soon. So you kind of have three options. One of them has to hit. You imagine with the level of talent that they have. So I expect them both to Mauricio will start in AA, and then both Beatty and Vientos should start in AAA. Vientos is going to get added to the 40-man roster this week because he's eligible for Rule 5 draft. So he'll be on the 40-man, which puts him on the cusp. And he got a cup of coffee in AAA at the end of the season and just like kept hitting there too. So I think he's a guy that his defense is a little bit of a question, but he can hit. Beatty is a little more well-rounded. He could hit. His defense is better. And Mauricio is obviously a projection defensively, but offensively, he doesn't have the same athleticism, but he kind of reminds me almost of like an Alfonso Soriano kind of hitter. There's definitely some third base options. And, again, it's a very win now fan base. No one wants to hear about prospects, whether they're coming in a year or whatever. I think Vientos is a guy that definitely can make his big league debut this year or in 2022. And Beatty is certainly possible. If he goes and he hits in AAA, I've always said this to all the prospects I've talked to over the years, and anyone who wants to talk to me about them, is when you get to AAA, you're just performing well away from being in the major leagues. Like it's much less of a projection and a look ahead. It's if you go and you perform at that level, you're probably going to get a call if there's a need at your spot.
You're going to go to the show. Cano's going to get hurt in like 3 games because that's just what he does at this point of his career. If he's not
49 years old. I mean,
yeah.
Are you expecting to stay together?
Yeah, and I think the only way he's going to stay together is if he takes something that will then get him suspended from baseball for life. So it's like he's really in a catch-22 right now. So all right, I'm feeling a little better both short-term and long-term at like with the team. And again, everyone remembers Joe is the president of the Edwin Diaz fan club. I'm the vice president. I'm right there with you. We're fucking on the org chart right next to each other. But like we have to take it that this is a very, optimistic fan when it comes to the typical Mets fan, which is what I need to hear right now. I don't need to hear the people who are just going to fucking cry that, $21 million for a guy who's pitched 2 innings coming off Tommy John 2 years ago. So
and while I'm positive and I try to be rational, like they have a lot to do. Like I'm not sitting here. I'm not in denial. I'm not like, oh, everything's great. Don't worry about losing this guy or that guy. They have a lot of work to do. There's no question about it. And they have to get on it now. Like Billy Epler put that press conference together tomorrow. For some reason, he apparently flew to New York to meet with Cohen and then flew back to California to think about it. And then is taking the job. Now he's going to have to fly back for a press conference. Like that, what are you doing, man? You know you're taking the job. Just stay around. Bring your family with you.
Joe, I swear to God, if I have to write a blog that Noah Syndergaard signed with the Angels because their GM was sleeping because of jet lag, I'm gonna blame you for putting this fucking thought into right now. Jesus Christ! All right, okay. So this is the thing. This is why I'm rooting for the lockout. Like, what is it? December 1st is when the lockout could happen.
Yeah. Beautiful. December 2nd. December 2nd. It's going to be a long, miserable winter as a fan that likes to follow hot stove and action and moves. Because once the CBA expires, MLB will bar any 40-man roster based decisions. So basically, all you could do is like the Mets could hire a coaching staff. They can make minor league free agent signings, which are guys that just will fill AAA rosters or whatever. But from December 2nd till most people seem to think into February, there'll be nothing. And then it'll kind of be like an NFL rush where there's 2 weeks and it's just like bam, 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 bam. So it's going to be quite eventful if they actually do have a lockout of that length.
And the beauty of it is, like you said, they can hire coaching staff, they can hire, infrastructure, get more analytics nerds, run all their algorithms, let all that shit, let fucking Epler get an apartment here just so he doesn't have to fly to California at the end of the workday every single day.
And I'm sure these GMs are going to talk. Like, let's be honest. You think Billy Epler's like, cool, I got the job. Like, I'll just go take a 2-month vacation. Like, we cool? Like, no, he's going to, I'm sure they're going to talk to Billy Beane in Oakland and be like, Matt Chapman, Frankie Montas, Sean Manaea. Like, you have those discussions. It's like, yeah, whenever this lockout thing ends, let's, finalize kind of thing. I think you'll see a lot of things. That's what I think is the best case for fans who like to follow this stuff is that during the lockout, like things kind of happen when they're not supposed to happen and things happen in the background and you at least get some kind of rumors. Because imagine just 2 months of nothing but MLB using one media source to rip the players and the players using another media source to rip MLB. Like that would be a disaster to deal with for 2 months.
And so even if there's nothing going on technically because players are locked out, this is like an enormous winter for the Mets right now. And just get everyone in place. Like Scott, like I said, and like the agents too. Scott Boras isn't just going to sit around and be like, man, I hope everyone signs my guys. He's going to be playing his fucking games, making his stupid analogies and all that kind of shit. And like you said, once everything comes up, and it's, open for business, it's probably going to go fast and furious. We're probably going to have like 3 emergency podcasts in like a week here because it's just going to be, I think it's going to be like you said, an impactful, I think it's going to be a lot of signings by the Mets and all that kind of shit. And like, I don't know, like good. I'm rooting for a lockout. I'm rooting for all that kind of stuff. And the biggest thing to take from the lockout as well is the way this luxury, like if the players can get what they want more, where they, there's less lockout, less luxury tax penalties, or it's better for team. It helps teams spend more money. That's an advantage for us. So we have to root for the players as usual in this. We do not want the owners to push back and get a hard cap or anything like that. Which again, name of the podcast, That's So Mets. The Mets would get the, richest owner in the sport, and then there's an actual hard cap where we can't go over. So we are
and they'll
rooting.
be right up against, there'll be a $203 million cap, and their payroll luxury tax right now is like 185. So it's like, well, you got $15 million. Enjoy it.
Right.
to fill a couple pitching roles, a third base role when Robinson Cano dies on opening day, and just everything else like that. So it's going to be a busy offseason, and no matter what, even if everyone's locked out. So follow Joe on Twitter, PSL to Flushing, That's So Mets podcast. You got to do like a home and home here. You got to get us on. I mean,
I know.
we never did like an Edwin Diaz hype.
Yeah, Clem, you know what? We'll have you on. I'm gonna we record every Tuesday, so we'll be recording later. When I'll talk to Connor, and we're doing a home and home. You guys are coming on our pod because now we have to ask you the questions.
Yeah, the hard questions. We'll see. I mean, by the time like we get on, whenever that is, God knows what'll happen with this team. But it's clear they're not going to take it easy on us, and it's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows under Uncle Stevie. We learned that after year one.
It's the Mets. You're a Mets fan. Let's not act like we're not. We're used to this.
Yeah,
we're used to this. This ain't nothing new. Like people.
This is just another Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly.
But in the end, no matter what do we got to do, boys?
Gotta believe.
Gotta believe.